Many people still remember the earliest days of the internet, tying up the phone line and dialing up to your internet service provider so that you could web crawl an internet that would be considered very primitive by today's standards. Then we started using our phone lines in a different way, for slightly faster internet access known as DSL. But before long, the couple of copper wires inside a tiny phone line were seeing their maximum potential, and eventually our cable TV lines, with much hardier bundles of coaxial cables, were used to bring faster and faster speeds. But as the demands of an ever-evolving internet grew, even cable began to see its limits. Its networks can be thought of just the same as your neighborhood, and as more and more people in your neighborhood get online at the same time, your own internet starts to get bogged down. For most people, your average internet connection seems fast enough these days. A few years ago, watching a video without buffering for a long time first seemed unlikely. Now, in 2021, we can watch feature-length movies without interruption. But have you ever noticed that when you want to send a bunch of photos or upload a video, it always seems to take a really long time? 2020 showed us that we could live stream a conversation with friends, but sometimes they would break up, or their picture would get blocky, their voice would sound like a robot, or sometimes they'd drop from the call entirely. This may not be a huge deal when having a virtual happy hour with some friends, or a small team meeting with a few coworkers. But when you're giving an important presentation, or you're a student in an online classroom, the last thing you want are interruptions. Some households have multiple students taking classes online at one time. If mom is doing remote work from home while one student is attending online classes and another is watching their college lecture, suddenly your internet is choking. Even when relaxing in the evenings, having multiple members of a household streaming video from various websites or playing video games online, they start to feel the bottleneck as more and more bandwidth is needed by more and more people and devices. This is because traditional internet connections thought of the World Wide Web as a platform that delivered its content mainly in one direction. The little bits of information home users send, such as requesting a certain website or searching a few keywords, were no big deal. Most of the information was then served up to you over an asymmetrical connection, meaning that even with a very expensive connection, your download speeds were far greater than your upload speeds. It was designed this way because the internet was not envisioned as the two-way street that it's become. These are actual speed tests of connections around Corey. You don't have to know what a megabit is to see how lopsided these numbers are. Now more than ever, reliable and fast upload speeds are just as important as snappy download speeds. And that is the goal of this project. We don't just want to bring an alternative internet to Corey. We want to bring a better internet to Corey. Fiber optic internet access has symmetrical speeds, making it much better for the modern world. Whether you're giving a presentation, attending a classroom, or you want to be the next famous video game streamer, fiber optic internet is how we prepare for the future. One more note about preparing for the future. This includes everyone. Our goal is to reach the entire Corey area school district, not just downtown Corey. And while I've heard, I'll believe it when I see it, let me explain why I think it's more possible than ever. All internet in rural areas, up until now, has been provided using traditional and existing communication methods, either coaxial cable or twisted pair telephone wires. Both of these technologies were invented for purposes other than the internet, and they work by sending electrical signals through copper wires. This means they can be interfered with by any kind of electromagnetic interference, such as another electrical source, like CB radios, lightning, and even the humming of fluorescent light bulbs. While they are shielded to protect against that most of the time, these copper wires are also subject to signal attenuation, which means the farther it has to travel, the weaker the signal gets. This requires repeaters and extra substations to be installed all along the route trying to get the internet connection to your home. Fiber optic cables were designed with data transmission in mind, and they're typically built with a core of glass surrounded by reflective cladding. This means the signal reflects around inside the cable rather than just seeping out of it, allowing signals to travel much greater distances than typical copper wire internet without degrading. These are the types of cables they bury in the ocean floor for intercontinental and global data transmissions. They're durable, fast, and will literally help close the gap between our rural communities and anywhere else in the world you want to be.